Chop wood, carry water. There is an algorithm that can tell you how happy you are, but it won't tell you when you're lying to yourself. This is the sort of thing that keeps me up at night. And maybe you. We live in a world of prompts. Be mindful, says the notification. Focus on the out-breath, chimes the meditation app, piping proprietary wind chimes through noise-cancelling headphones as you walk your dog at 12:13 a.m. If you forget to check in, it will remind you. If you try to mute it for a week, it will upsell you on the benefits of habit formation. All the while, your data is being passed and permutated into an emotional credit score, a spirituality as a subscription, where opening your soul is archived for customer service training purposes. What's strange is how easy it is to let this pass for wisdom. People nod so readily at the sound of a pithy aphorism, their heads moving almost before the words have landed. It's as if we're all hardwired to treasure the cadence of certainty, the way a well-formed maxim settles the dust in the room and gives everyone a moment free from doubt. But there's a difference between the gleam of the thing and the substance underneath. When I catch myself reaching for one of these off-the-shelf insights, it's usually because I'm tired or bored or, if I'm being honest, hoping to move through a difficult moment without having to stick my hands into the mess of it. It's a dangerous efficiency, peddling wisdom without the bother of wisdom's cost. There are whole industries devoted to this kind of shortcut. Self-help, motivational speaking, corporate mission statements. The endless quotation waterfall that spills from our social media accounts. They promise to rewire your life, or at least the portion of it you're willing to bring to the altar of the algorithm. Invariably, these offerings are less about transformation and more about anesthetizing the parts of you that might, with enough discomfort, actually transform. Turns out, most people don't want wisdom, they want relief. The crisis arrives quietly, as most real ones do. It's not a dramatic collapse, but an ambient ache, a background process running at 100% CPU. You feel the lag but can't find the app that's eating your battery. You meditate, hydrate, delete your social media for 3 days. Nothing. Relief is partial and perfunctory, lesser healing than a distracted pick at a scab. It was only after the third or fourth round with this malaise that I noticed the voice in my head had changed. It wasn't broadcasting the usual self-loathing or grandiosity, the twin engines of ambition. It was just narrating, not giving orders, not passing judgment, simply describing. The voice said,
"You are not the voice in your head. You are the observer who hears it."
The effect was immediate and jarring. All at once the narration wobbled, as if a radio had picked up a competing signal. I'd gone my entire life assuming the commentary track was me, my authentic, deeply considered self, the final arbiter of what was true or not. But it was like finding a two-way mirror and realizing you'd been watching your own reflection from the wrong side. Every thought, every sentence fragment was just another pop-up ad, another running ticker at the bottom of the screen.
"You're not working hard enough. You're going to disappoint everyone. You should lose a few pounds."
These weren't oracular insights, they were the spam folder of consciousness full of malware. What made it worse was how persuasive the chatter could be. Even when I knew intellectually that these were just old scripts, my body still reacted, pupils dilating, jaw tightening, muscles preparing for combat. But then, instead of wrestling with this inner male, I started dragging them into the archive. The notification popped, the body responded, but the mind, for once, just watched. Turns out you don't have to answer every thought that arrives in your inbox. You can swipe left, you can let the notification badge accumulate, become background noise, and eventually fade. The first few times this felt like cheating. There's a certain sanctity to struggle, and if your identity is built from the bricks of self-improvement, the idea of simply observing a feeling without acting on it seems disloyal to the project. There is also the suspicion, deeply ingrained and highly marketable, that if you just sit with an emotion, it will grow into a monster and devour you. In practice, the opposite happens. Anger, sadness, fear, they're like rainstorms. They pour down for a while, loud and insistent, then roll out, leaving everything cleaner than before. And in the stillness that comes after the storm, I noticed, Perhaps for the first time since I was a kid, the way the radiator hissed and popped in the quiet hours, how my dog's paws sounded more like rain than footsteps against the hardwood. I noticed the taste of instant coffee, metallic and faintly sweet, and the chemical tang of the vinyl chair I'd bought on a whim during the pandemic. Each sensory detail arrived with a vividness that made me suspect I'd been living underwater for years, taking everything in through a thick and distorting membrane. The world, when examined, wasn't a set of problems to be solved, but a carousel of tiny, ecstatic moments. I'd be lying if I said it was a one-time conversion, a big bang-bang enlightenment that changed the firmware of my mind forever. It's more like flossing or keeping a cactus alive, and more often than not, I wake up wrapped in the old, familiar scripts. The observer's clarity is a lens that fogs with the heat of ordinary living. You catch yourself yelling at a car that cut you off, or spending 40 minutes doom-scrolling, and all the while the observer is there, not judging but witnessing the regression to the mean. It turns out the practice of mindfulness is mostly the practice of remembering you forgot. Each moment of noticing is a kind of micro-resurrection, a return to the cockpit after drifting in autopilot. That's the trick, isn't it? There's no finish line, just a string of small awakenings, like streetlights flickering on one by one after dusk. Some days the lights are synchronized, clear and steady for blocks ahead. Other days, a few bulbs are out, and you make your way by memory, half blind and guessing, but the act of noticing, even the imperfection of it, becomes its own reward. I started keeping a list on my phone of the tiny things I'd never have clocked if I wasn't paying attention. The neighbour's cat, perpetually plotting to outsmart its leash, the barista's tattoo, a Fibonacci sequence coiled around her wrist, the way the elevator's LED display briefly flashes "Hello" when you press the lobby button, like it's glad to be of service. I stopped grading my days by how much I got done or how justified my anxiety felt. I've come to suspect that the whole project of self-optimization, of trying to build a better, more crystalline me, is fueled by the same machinery that makes the algorithms run, a kind of perfectionist hunger, a refusal to accept the necessary friction of living in a body with a history and a mind that will never fully cooperate. I wanted to believe that there was a version of myself waiting on the other side of all this noticing, a model citizen of the inner world, enlightened and efficient, immune to the pettiness and repetition that dogged my every morning. But here's what no one tells you about liberation. It's nothing special. There is no grand reveal, no curtain parting to show the truth of things in one radiant tableau. Instead, there are dishes to wash, emails to answer, and traffic to negotiate. As the sages once told us, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Real freedom is lived, not won and hoarded. One mundane moment to the next, we can find ourselves in the thick of that same old reality, only now it's glazed with a kind of private astonishment. And that's the beautiful paradox I stumbled across and am trying to honour, that our days may be filled with the mundane, but that is not to say they are ordinary. There are no ordinary moments. Each is an invitation to stay awake, to be here and now, because being present is itself a quiet but powerful form of revolution.